An ass-kisser looks like a friend, just as a wolf looks like a dog. Be careful not to admit hungry wolves into your home instead of guard dogs. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "Associate with those who uplift you, individuals whose presence brings out your best qualities." You've probably heard the saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. Well, today, let's explore this idea through a Stoic lens. We'll discuss the 8 types of people that can hinder your progress in Stoic philosophy and why it's crucial to reconsider your friendships with them. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you liked the video to help me continue spreading Stoic philosophy. If you're not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Let's get to the video. Types of people to be avoided. 1. The whiner. Who hasn't had that acquaintance who seems to find a problem in everything, right? It can be a friend, a relative, or even someone from work, always ready to unload dissatisfaction into the air as if it were a life mission. The question is, can you simply ignore them? Well, in theory, it seems easy, but in practice, it's like trying to cover the sun with a sieve. Constant exposure to so much negativity is like a persistent drip, slowly draining our emotional energy. Here enters Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us to direct our focus towards practical solutions instead of getting lost in problems. Just imagine working on a project with someone who is practically a walking encyclopedia of complaints. Every meeting turns into a marathon of discouragement with no room for constructive dialogue. The impact on the team's morale is like a domino effect, and the tendency is for you to feel increasingly disheartened not only with the project, but with life in general. But how does Stoicism come into play in this story to help us deal with these masters of pessimism? There are several strategies we can adopt. First, try to limit your exposure to this person as much as possible. If you can't avoid it because, let's say, it's an inseparable relative or colleague, your second option is to create a mental shield. Treat their complaints as a passing storm, intense and disturbing, but ultimately temporary and unable to shake the unshakable mountain that is your inner peace. The third option? Transform the conversation. Steer the discussion towards practical solutions or shift the focus to something more constructive. As the philosopher Marcus Aurelius would say, "You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this and you will find strength." This Stoic gem is a reminder that we must protect our mental peace as if it were a treasure, not allowing the negativity of chronic complainers to divert us from the path of resilience and virtue. 2. The skeptic. Imagine yourself as an artist painting a canvas. Each stroke adds color, depth, and life to your vision. Enter the skeptic. They walk into your studio, look at your work, and immediately start criticizing it. Are you sure about this color? It doesn't look realistic. You know, most artists don't get anywhere. Their words are like strokes of gray paint that begin to fade your vibrant canvas. This isn't constructive criticism, but rather a persistent aura of doubt and negativity. For instance, suppose you're excited about pursuing a new career. You've done your research, talked to professionals in the field, and maybe even taken some preliminary courses. When you share your excitement with the skeptic, they quickly list all the reasons why it won't work. The market is too competitive. You don't have the right skills. What if you fail? Over time, their doubts start to feel like yours, and the self-confident vision you had begins to destabilize. How to deal with a skeptic, especially when this person may be close to you? An unconventional but effective method is to seek advice from them, instead of just sharing your plans or aspirations. When people are put in an advisor role, they are less likely to attack your ideas directly and may offer more constructive feedback. Another method involves flipping the game through a technique called positive confrontation. Instead of absorbing their negativity, challenge them to think of solutions. If they say, "You'll never be able to change careers at this stage," respond with an interesting perspective. How do you think someone could successfully make a career change? This not only deflects negativity, but also encourages a more constructive conversation. Remember the words of the historical philosopher Epictetus. "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening doesn't mean absorbing everyone's negativity, but discerning valuable input from mere noise. When skeptics start clouding your canvas with their shadows of doubt, take a step back. Life is like a game of chess, with each player having the same pieces and the same goal: checkmating the opponent's king. You think strategically, make sacrifices, and take risks. But the victim blames the board, the pieces, or even the opponent for every bad move they make. In their view, they are perpetually in checkmate, not by choice, but by some external force acting against them. Their narrative is an endless tale of misfortunes, with themselves as helpless protagonists. While it's crucial to acknowledge that some people face genuine difficulties and systemic issues, the victim we are discussing uses their situation as a permanent excuse, refusing to take any responsibility for their actions or lack thereof. You might find yourself entangled in their story, perhaps as a supporting character who constantly needs to rescue them. For example, you've spent countless hours listening to a friend blame their endless series of failed relationships entirely on their ex-partners. This not only consumes your time, but can subtly encourage you to adopt a victim mentality in your own life. So what's your move when dealing with a victim, especially when this person may be close to you? An unconventional but effective method is to ask them open-ended questions that encourage them to reflect on their situation instead of offering solutions or becoming the perpetual problem solver. Try questions like, "What do you think you could do differently in this situation?" Or, "How do you see yourself taking control of this part of your life?" Another approach is to show empathy and kindness, but not try to rescue them from situations they need to navigate on their own. Offer an attentive ear, but avoid becoming their perpetual problem solver. Remember the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." If you find yourself being drawn into the victim's narrative, resist the temptation to become one yourself. Take control of your own game board, make your moves, and remember that in the chess game of life, being perpetually in checkmate is often a choice, not a fate. Keep moving your pieces forward, make strategic sacrifices when necessary, and play not for revenge or pity, but for growth and wisdom. 3. The toxic positivist. Oh, we all know that person who seems to be the embodiment of joy, always casting rainbows and an endless shower of emojis. They tell you to simply be happy, as if that were as easy as changing clothes, completely ignoring your feelings and experiences with a wave of bright optimism. Imagine life as a garden, with flowers, but also with weeds and pests. The toxic positivist, however, insists on only seeing the roses blooming, telling you not to let negativity into your garden. Sounds inspiring, right? But this approach can make you feel invalidated and disconnected from reality. Let's suppose you're going through a tough breakup. You're sad, confused, seeking emotional balance, and here comes the advice from the toxic positivist. "Oh, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Smile and be happy." This exaggerated positivity simply ignores the complexities of human emotions and the realities of life's challenges. How do you cultivate your garden without letting the toxic positivist trample it with their undue optimism? One strategy is to engage them in a conversation that addresses both light and shadow. If they say, "Look on the bright side, at least you have your health," you can respond, "Yes, I'm grateful for my health, but it's also okay if I feel sad about this specific issue." Both can coexist. Another technique is to use what psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to feel and differentiate a wide range of emotions, both positive and negative. When the toxic positivist tries to force you to be happy, take a moment to acknowledge and name your nuanced feelings. Saying, "I'm feeling a bit melancholic today because of X, and that's okay," can be a liberating statement. According to Stoic thought, as Cicero said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, as if we expected to be happy in the future. Notice the balance, understanding duties, which are not always pleasant, and enjoying the present. The Stoic approach is not about focusing solely on the positive or negative, but about embracing the complexity of life with equanimity. So the next time the toxic positivist throws their confetti on your carefully tended garden, take a step back. 4. The victim. Imagine life as a grand chess game, where each player has the same pieces, and the goal is to checkmate the opponent's king. It requires strategic thinking, sacrifices, and taking risks. However, there's that person who, instead of facing the challenge head-on, prefers to blame the board, the pieces, or even the opponent for every bad move. In their view, they are perpetually in checkmate, not by choice, but by some external force conspiring against them. Their narrative is an endless tale of misfortunes, with themselves as helpless protagonists. Of course, it's important to acknowledge that some people face real difficulties and systemic issues, but this particular victim uses their situation as a permanent excuse, refusing to take any responsibility for their actions or lack thereof. Perhaps you find yourself in the midst of this story, maybe as a supporting character who constantly needs to rescue them. You've spent endless hours listening to a friend blame all their ex-partners for failed relationships. This not only consumes your time, but can subtly influence you to adopt a victim mentality in your own life. So what's your move when dealing with a victim, especially when they are close to you? An unconventional but effective approach is to ask open-ended questions that encourage them to reflect on their situation, instead of offering solutions or becoming the perpetual problem solver. Questions like, "What do you think you could do differently in this situation?" Or, "How do you see yourself taking control of this part of your life?" can be a starting point. Another strategy is to show empathy and kindness, but without trying to rescue them from situations they need to face on their own. Offer an attentive ear, but avoid becoming the savior of their problems. Remember the wise words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. If you feel you're being drawn into the victim's narrative, resist the temptation to become one yourself. Take control of your own chess game, make strategic moves, and remember that on the chessboard of life, being perpetually in checkmate is often a choice, not a fate. Keep moving your pieces forward, make strategic sacrifices when necessary, and play not for revenge or pity, but for growth. 5. The manipulator. Imagine your life as a screenplay. You are the main character and have an idea of how your story should unfold, where the plot twists are, who your allies and mentors are, and what your final act looks like. Then comes the manipulator, the shadowy producer who subtly rewrites your script without you realizing it until the day you realize your story has gone off the rails. The manipulator is skilled in the art of emotional or psychological maneuvering. They can use flattery, guilt, or even deception to steer you in a direction that benefits them. Perhaps you have a friend who always manages to get you to pay for dinner, saying something like, "You know, I'm going through a tough month, and you're so successful that it wouldn't make much of a difference to you, but it would make my day better." Over time, you realize that your generosity is being exploited, but confronting them is uncomfortable because they framed it as a favor to a needy friend. Dealing with a manipulator can be tricky. One method to counter their tactics is what some experts call agree and disagree. This technique involves agreeing with any truth in the manipulator's statements, but refusing to be swayed by emotional coercion. If they say, "You're so successful that you should pay for dinner," you can respond, "You're right that I've been doing well, but let's split the bill, as we usually do." Another approach is to establish clear boundaries and enforce them. If the manipulator wants you to lend them money or commit to tasks you're not comfortable with, learn to assertively say no. Maintain a calm tone and clear words. You can say, "I can't lend money, but I'm here to offer support." While the cast may include a variety of characters, the journey of the protagonist, your journey, should always be guided by your own values and decisions. Claim your script and don't allow anyone to manipulate the narrative of your life. 6. The time vampire. Imagine your day-to-day life as an engaging melody, a meticulously crafted symphony. Each element, like a tuned instrument, represents a task or commitment that, when woven together, forms a harmonious balance. However, in the plot of this performance emerges the figure of the time vampire, an off-key conductor bringing chaos to your routine. How to face this time vampire who persistently insists on being part of your life. An efficient strategy is to establish clear boundaries, like precise notes on a musical score. Communicate your time constraints assertively but gently. If a friend wishes to have a conversation, you can harmonize the situation by saying, "It would be great to talk, but I only have 15 minutes now. Can we make the most of this time?" When a colleague seeks your help, you can orchestrate a response like, "I'm currently busy, but once I finish my task, I'll be happy to collaborate." An additional approach to protect your time is to take care of your well-being and productivity, like conducting a symphony to achieve the best possible performance. Setting clear boundaries with time vampires not only restores harmony to the symphony of your life, but also creates space to help others in a way that doesn't compromise your own rhythm. In this journey of time self-management, remember that by saying no to certain demands, you are tuning your own symphony, providing it with a richer and more balanced melody. After all, by protecting your time, you become the conductor of your own narrative, leading it in a captivating and impactful way. 7. The uninterested. Imagine yourself navigating an ocean of relationships where some vessels carry the precious cargo of mutual interest, while others seem to be empty hulls, indifferent to the emotional currents around them. This person, displaying a lack of genuine interest, is like one of those empty vessels, rarely sailing through the sea of your concerns, achievements, and emotions. Encountering someone who fits this profile repeatedly is like facing a tide of unbalanced relationships. How to deal with this situation? Just as an assertive captain commands their ship, assertive communication becomes your compass. Expressing your feelings becomes crucial, like hoisting sails in the direction of mutual understanding. Communicate assertively, describing how you feel in the face of this sea of indifference and pointing out the impact of this behavior on the waters of the relationship. "I would like to share more about my life, but I feel there is a lack of genuine interest. This makes me feel undervalued and creates an imbalance in our relationship." However, just as the sea does not always respond to the captain's command, be prepared to accept that some people may resist the currents of change. Some vessels may remain anchored in their own waters, indifferent to the need for deeper dialogue. While navigating these emotional waters, remember that, just as we choose the routes of our travels, we can also choose the relationships we cultivate. Be mindful of the balance between giving and receiving, seeking those who are willing to explore the seas of life together, building a genuine and balanced bond. Thank you for your presence and encouragement throughout this journey.